Yeah, I just saw.
Okay, I'm going to call.
Hold up, let me hit the button. We're live.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the January 4th organizational meeting of the Tipp City Board of Education, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
David, if you could call roll.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Here.
Mrs. Dahl,
Here.
Mrs. Heatherly.
Here.
For those watching, Mrs. Heatherly is attending this meeting remotely through Zoom. Mr. Patrick.
Here.
Mrs. Zakor.
Here.
All present and accounted for this evening. There is a quorum.
Great. Item C, approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. That's all I need, right?
That's it.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay,
Well, no, I guess
Sorry.
we can discuss if anything is not correct here. Or if anybody wants to pull anything out of the consent agenda item, they can do it now.
all right, does anybody have any changes? Seeing that there's none.
Okay. Zakor,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
motion carries. Okay, I would like to open the floor for nominations to approve the president of the Board of Education for the 2021 school year.
I motion. Teresa Dunaway. President.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Dave, ready for the vote?
Let me make this note here. And your name just escaped me.
Zakor and Dahl.
Oh, doll.
No, I looked at you. Okay. Motion.
Motion by Zakor, second by Mrs. Dahl.
Zakor,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Heatherly,
No.
Patrick.
Yes.
Motion carries. I would like to open the floor now for the election of the 2021 Vice President of the Board of Education. Are there any nominations?
I recommend, is that what I said?
Nominate.
I nominate Joellen for vice president.
Motion by Mrs. Dahl. Is there a second? Joellen, do you want a second?
No, thank you.
Okay, seeing that there's no second.
Do you have any other nominations?
I
Go ahead.
nominate Corinne Dahl for vice president.
I appreciate that. I just don't think I can, I barely supported you this year and I just don't think I can do that this year. So I respectfully decline the nomination.
We respect that. Then I'll nominate, I'd like to nominate Ann Zakor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Dave, ready for a vote? Take your time.
I'm actually keeping it pretty well.
All right, well, hey. It's like you've been doing this for many years or something.
Okay, that was a Dunaway and Dahl.
Dunaway, Dahl.
Okay, Dunaway,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item C, board meeting frequency and time. We did make some changes to this last year. We kind of have the proposed dates. We're going to try to do what we did last year, which to get the monthly work sessions on there. that seemed to work really well. Of course, if we don't need it, we don't need it. If everybody's comfortable with the list that we got sent, my only other question would be, is everybody okay with the 6 o'clock start time for the Board of Education meetings? And then we have been doing the work sessions at 5 o'clock. Joellen, are you able to get here at 5 o'clock for work sessions? I know that's kind of iffy for you sometimes.
That would be fine. I was just wondering why we moved them from Tuesdays to Mondays. Is there any reason?
Did they all get moved to Monday?
They all got moved to Monday.
Hang on, let me get my phone, Joellen.
I'm sorry, John, what did you say?
We used to have the work sessions on Tuesdays and now they're on Mondays.
The original 4 from last year that were done quarterly,
Yeah.
we're still on the Monday, but I think we moved the 8 additional work sessions. We set those up to be on the Tuesday of the month. I believe that this one was just when the list was put together by Mrs. Crawl and Mrs. Williams. We just stuck with the Monday.
I'm okay with Mondays. Is everybody okay with Mondays? That we always know it's Mondays. Is that all right?
I'm flexible.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Joellen? If we just stick with Mondays?
That's fine. Is there a reason we need to meet every single month for a work session? Do we
Well,
need?
it's better to have it and cancel it than to try to get 7 people's, schedules together. And if we can't, if we don't have 5 board members at every meeting, as long as we have 3, it's a quorum. Just with everybody's busy schedule, last year it worked really well to have them. And really, we ended up not canceling any. Sorry, she's trying to talk. Go ahead, Joellen.
That's fine.
Okay.
Did you like Tuesdays for the work sessions better, Joellen? Because that actually works better for me as well, but I don't want to, if I'm the only person that would like it moved to Tuesday, I will drop that right now.
Okay. I prefer them on Tuesdays, but I guess I would be interested in hearing from the administration since they have to do all the work to get everything ready.
Does it matter to you guys?
Yeah, I wasn't here when the calendar was put together last year. I just didn't know if it hit some weeks when we didn't have school on Monday or for whatever reason. And so then some of them got jumped to Tuesdays. I don't know.
So can you resend this list to the entire school board and make all the work sessions on Tuesdays?
Every single.
Yep, just all 12. That's an easy fix.
And the
Work sessions will be at 5 o'clock on Tuesdays. And what about the board meetings? Is everybody okay with 6 o'clock still? Is that, because last year we changed it a half hour earlier. I like it being at 6 versus 6:30. We could do 5:30. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Now that we have the second citizen comment, the reason why we never did them earlier was because people couldn't get off work and get here in time for 6 o'clock citizen comments. But now that we have the second citizen comment, I feel like if people want to, like for you to get, it makes it easier. I know you have young kids too, son.
I think 6 PM is as early as I'd want to go to give the public opportunity to get home from work and make a meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're good on that. Let's see.
So I'm sorry,
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
as a quick recap,
Yes, ma'am.
6 PM Mondays, regular meetings.
Correct.
5 PM work session, hopefully Tuesdays.
Yes, changing them to Tuesdays, and we'll get that email sent out to everybody.
So to the work, I'm sorry, I totally missed that. Work sessions Tuesdays, 5 PM.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and we need to redo that list. Just change it one day, add 1 day to all the monthly work sessions on that list. Okay, are we ready? Anybody else on item C? Okay, item D, committee
Well,
assignment.
we need to actually vote on this.
I can do the dates if you're taking the minutes.
Yeah, we just need to note, there is an actual resolution to
Okay.
approve the meeting list.
Oh, yes, that's right there,
So-
approval of motion.
So Mr. Stefanik will update that list, but we're basically stating that any listed work sessions will be on. So we've got approval of a motion. Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for item C, approval of motion establishing time and frequency of the Board of Education meetings, place of the meetings at the Board of Education.
Unless otherwise noted.
Yeah. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Dunaway and Mrs. Dahl. Ready for a vote?
I will note that the compensation for the board members is currently set at the maximum amount according to ORC 3313.12 and 3313.202D. And that is per meeting, which is whenever we have a roll call.
And it also caps out annually at $5,000.
That is correct,
So we don't ever make more than that.
which we have not yet.
No. Last quarter it was 725. So we're good.
Mrs. Dunaway,
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item D, committee assignments. We'll just start at the top and go down. Strategic plan. Anybody want to volunteer for that?
Is that my second?
You're gonna be swamped this year.
That's why I'm just saying,
You're not
like,
gonna have a lot of free time.
Which-
And
which
Mr. Stefanik,
ones?
are these meetings gonna be during the day? Because that makes a big difference as to what board members can attend. You know, some can't get off work.
No, I would say if there's a steering committee, there'll be community members involved, so they'll be in the evenings.
And I know that you're working on that currently. So are you anticipating this as like once a month or twice a month?
No, I would say after the data comes in, I would think that committee would meet maybe 2 or 3 times total.
Yeah, because we have to get it done early in the year so that we know what we're doing for the rest of the year.
Right, yeah. Well, no, it's probably in March, April. This is for implementation in August.
Gotcha.
So it'll probably be March, April, maybe 2, 3 meetings in that span right there, and then have it ready to present at the May board meeting.
Okay, I'll stay on it again. Anybody else? We don't have to have 2 board members if nobody else absolutely positively doesn't want to do it.
just remind me,
it is what
school
it
board
is.
committees and standing committees are not required. These are just things that we do, other than like the legislative one for OSBA.
The Business Advisory Council is required by law.
Right.
That's one that's just
And so
in the
the-
last 2 years.
So is the school board committees, that first one, those are the ones we have to fill, and then standing committees are extra things?
No,
Is
is that
that
the way you describe it, Mr. Stefanik?
They're like liaison
Yeah.
things that you're involved in the actual activity, so you
Yeah,
can talk
liaison's a
about
good
what's
word.
going on.
So what is the key distinction between those two? I was thinking about that myself.
Here it is. School board representation on councils, committees, and community organizations exists to ensure school board awareness and provide support. This representation is at the pleasure of the organization, organizing and conducting the business of the organization. Representatives attending these meetings will update the Board of Education on business of the organization as noted below. So that's what it says on representatives and liaisons. And every school board does it a little different. All school boards do it a little different. All committees are a little different. We did make quite a few changes last year. You know, we just see what works and kind of go with it. Okay, strategic plan, Teresa Dunaway, that seems to be it. Facilities, grounds, and safety. Do we have any volunteers for that?
Did that even meet last year?
Yes, we met several
Oh, you were on
times.
it, okay,
We met several times until COVID-19 occurred.
okay.
I would like to be on that again.
Okay, Simon. And does anybody else want to be on facilities? Okay, it's all you, Simon. Legislative liaison. Nobody wants to do that? We didn't have one last year.
Is there a list that you're working from?
Yeah, if you go to item,
But I mean, like, as far as who did it the year
Mhm.
before?
It's listed.
Yeah,
If you go to
yeah.
content,
if you go to, yeah. Here, item D,
See,
standing committees.
it's not listed, it's not, the other stuff isn't coming up
No,
from,
no, here, go to the right here. See where it says standing committees? This button,
yeah.
click it. There you go.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Hey, I had no executive content for a year, so I know sometimes it gets confusing. Okay, where were we, Dave?
you're currently doing legislative liaison.
So nobody wants to do that one. Come back to that one. Board of Ed policies, that was a big one last year.
Oh, I'm very happy to.
Okay,
Yeah.
I really like you on that committee. That goes well with your, with your,
There's a lot of
background.
meeting during the daytime too.
That's
so it
true.
makes it more challenging for.
Yes.
very true.
I'm pretty good at that, so I come in.
Thank you, Ann. Student Achievement Liaison, I would love to do that. If no one, I mean, I'll share it, but I kind of miss doing that. Simon, you did it last year. Do you want to do it again? We can share it, or do you want to?
Go ahead. I would
Okay.
like to do the Board of Education policies as well.
Yeah, do
I
it.
was gonna say last year,
I would like
we
it.
did have two members.
Yeah.
You two would both be great. Well, no, last year we only had you, Ann.
No, it was both of us.
Oh, that's right.
But
Okay.
I'll make a note of that
And
and
took
we'll
them
make
over
sure we get that list
because
up.
I
Oh,
just
because it was
all the
day meetings. Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
understood. Okay, so that's Board of Ed policies is Ann Zakor and Simon Dave.
Got it.
Student Achievement Liaison is myself. I'm more than willing to have a partner, but, so, okay. Personnel and contract negotiations, those are gonna be during the day.
And they sometimes last all day.
Well, I remember they were all day for like months.
I mean, they try to work around everybody's schedule, but
Yeah.
they're normally during the day.
So, and I just, with me being president, you being vice president, day meetings, I feel like the day meetings are the three of us typically. So,
I'd like to be on that.
or do you want me to?
What was that?
Teresa,
Go ahead, John.
I'd like to be on that.
Okay, well, we're trying to, we only need one person, so we're gonna have to make a vote.
May I ask, that kind of surprises me, one board member?
Yeah, one board member. It's usually the president, because it was Sam Spano the first year we did it. Am I right, Dave Stevens? It was Sam Spano, you,
I believe it was actually, the first one was,
Sam,
no, she's gonna kill me for,
Carla Frame?
Carla Frame was the first one back in 2016, the 2015.
Oh, so, okay, then I was the year that Sam did it in 2020. Does that make sense?
Well, then we did it again
That was in
in 2018.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
that
the
was
one.
Sam.
I just remember he went to a lot of meetings. It was very, he spent a lot of time on that.
And I think we used to have two board members on each of these. And last year, for some reason, we switched it to one on a lot of these committees that didn't have more than one.
I think that they were almost all open to 2 seats.
And so I wouldn't limit anybody. I would just say if somebody wants to serve, that we should allow them to do that.
When it comes time for contract negotiations, I think there's only a certain number of people from both sides that are allowed into the meetings.
Correct, it's 5. Yeah, you're right, Joellen, it's 5. When I read if you read the first tab, it says superintendent. Yeah, it lists the people that are typically on it.
If somebody else really is dying to do it, I'm volunteering unless somebody else wants to.
Well, so right now it's you and me, the two of us that want to do it. And do you want to do it? And we'll just vote.
And then don't forget that we also can discuss what the board wants in executive session.
Yeah, absolutely we do.
We can make sure that that's brought up in the meetings.
I just had a quick question.
Mhm.
The one or two board members, whatever it may be, what is their role during being on that committee? Since
Dave,
they
you
are
want to speak to that?
separate.
You're the only person that's sat in these before.
Well, I'm pretty sure Mr. Stefanik said way more.
Well, not Tipp, yeah, sure.
But not here.
To answer Joellen's question, it says one board member, superintendent, treasurer, building administration representative, school attorney. So that's 5 people. So go ahead, Mr. Stefanik. What's the role? I think you just sit there and listen.
Most of the time, yes.
You don't talk.
You usually let the attorneys do most of the talking, they represent. But if for some reason something isn't getting represented, then another member of the team, whether it be the superintendent or the board member, speaks up and says, hey, we really need to, do this. And when either side calls a caucus, then everybody gives input, and so when you caucus, it's just the board's team goes into a private room, and then the teacher's team goes to their private room and they get to talk about strategy or items that haven't been discussed yet or whatever.
And how long is that process? Over what time frame?
It's a few months.
Until you're done. It's task specific.
Well, can you give me some, is it a day, a week, a month? I mean,
If there aren't a lot of items,
Mhm.
you can usually get finished if you just put it into hours, you can usually get finished in 8 to 12 hours. If there's some sticking points,
Mhm.
you could end up 30 hours, 40 hours involved, spread out over, you might have 6-hour sessions on
Right.
6 or 7 days. It all depends on
Scheduling, yeah.
Sometimes somebody will say, no, we're not available for the next month. And then there's just a pause in the middle of the process, and then it starts back up again, a month later. I've been through all different types of things. There's other ones when they say, we're gonna go 2 days back to back and get as much done as we possibly can get done in those 2 days. And then you actually go
I think that's getting more popular.
eight
I feel
to
like more people are
5,
doing
you go
that.
8 to 5 on a Thursday, 8 to 5 on a Friday. You hope by the end of Friday, everybody goes TGI Friday and you're finished. But I don't know. We have to talk to, TCA and see what kind of schedule they're willing to put together. Other people will say every Thursday at 10, we're meeting 10 to 3 and see how many Thursdays in a row it takes to get done.
And then the union has 5 members from their team as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Okay. And this is for a 3-year contract? Is that what
Yes.
you agreed? Or could it
Well-
be something that gets negotiated?
What I've seen is it depends. It depends what gets agreed to with
That's a negotiating
salary.
item as well. I mean, that's a negotiating point too.
Yeah. And so if salary, if there isn't an agreement for a long term, then it could be a shorter contract and you could come back and have reopeners every year. Or you could have a 2-year contract, 3-year contract. I think 3 is about the most. Have you ever seen anything longer than 3?
Yeah,
Have you?
5.
Really?
well, but then it ends up there's things going on,
So then they do some reopeners inside the 5-year contract? Okay, yeah.
So then once the meeting of the minds occur, and then that plan is proposed to the board for board vote approval? Okay.
Yes. Well, both sides. The TCA rep
They have
will
to
take it to the
approve it and
TCA and then it'll come back to the
Okay.
board for approval. Yes.
So Annie, do you want to step up for that, not step up for it?
I'm sorry, who?
So right now, Joellen and myself want to do it. We only need 1 board member because you can only have 5 people.
Oh,
So, and if you want to do it, there'll be 3 of us and we're just going to vote and make it real simple.
I think with your experience and Joe Ellen's experience,
Okay.
it would be better if
Okay.
served.
So we're just gonna, how are we gonna do that? We just yay, nay? Do we make a motion? and second?
Again, we used to have 2, I think, on this committee until
Not-
last year.
Not
We can only
contract
have 5
negotiations, only
people,
one.
and that is reserved for
Mhm.
the attorney, Mr.
Superintendent.
Stefanik, the treasurer, a board member, and 1 other administrator. We've had the high school principal in our past.
Typically high school principal, yeah.
That's a statute thing. too.
I think that's
It's
currently.
just 5, yeah, it says right in our policy, 1 board member.
It's in the agreement too.
It's in the, yeah, it's in the bargaining agreement. So,
Now,
Why don't-
one thing that can happen is you could have a substitute. If
An
there are 2
alternate.
people, you can alternate. And so then
Well,
just to
like we
make
do-
sure that
yeah,
somebody
that's
does
a
it.
bad idea in case.
To make sure that you have
Somebody gets
more
voted.
representation there, if somebody can't make a meeting, then the other one would step in.
We could have a primary and an alternate.
so Mark, is the best way to do this, just, since it's Joelle and I, vote on one of us, vote on one of us? I mean, or can we raise our hands? What's the official way to do this?
I've actually never been a part of this part for a board. I would say though, if you're gonna,
Dave,
if you're
I
gonna
mean,
do it.
Should we just keep, can we all just go around and say who we want? I mean, do we have to make all this motion second?
Well,
motion,
maybe
second?
you and Joe Ellen should first talk.
Well, we both
to each
want
other.
it, right?
Why,
I think it would be important to have some union experience going into this. I have union experience.
at what capacity, Joe Ellen? I don't know what that means.
At an administrative level.
You mean working with union contractual issues?
Yes, yes.
I don't. Experience is valuable. History, you both have the history aspects of the district.
I do like the idea that the president would be, especially you're the most experienced on the board. Were you here, Teresa? You were on the board when the first?
Yep,
Okay.
I was.
Oh, from the beginning? Oh, wow.
This is my first year on the school board is when this first happened.
Well, the 2015 negotiations were being done
But
before,
with the teachers union, with the first forming of the teachers union was my first year on the school board.
well, 2015.
Yeah.
And you came in 2015? It was
Well, we
2016.
negotiated that year. That was the year we had the big, because Brooker came on board, remember
Well,
Brooker?
they came in,
We hired Brooker.
my first day at the district was August 8th, and that was negotiations. That was 2015.
And I started in January. You came in
January.
August, I came in
Yeah,
January,
We
so,
didn't finish
yep.
it up until the,
And we finished it like in March or April, I think April-ish. Anyway, so Joellen, what do you want to do? Just have everybody vote on which one of us they want? What's your suggestion?
That's fine.
Okay. So obviously you're going to vote for yourself, correct? That makes sense? I'm going to vote for myself,
Why don't we nominate somebody?
which is,
I move that we have Joellen appointed to that committee as the board member representative.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Simon and Joellen. So we'll just take a vote.
give me one moment. Okay, that was first by Mr. Patrick, second by Mrs. Heatherly. Patrick, for the vote,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dahl,
No,
Dunaway,
No,
Zakor.
No,
motion fails.
I move Teresa Dunaway be our personnel and contracts negotiation representative.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion and seconded by Dahl and Zakor. Ready for a vote, Dave? We've already discussed it, so.
Copy and paste. May I have the first and second again, please?
Dahl, Zakor.
Thank you. Dahl,
Yes,
Zakor,
Yes,
Dunaway,
Yes,
Heatherly,
No.
Patrick.
No.
motion carries. Okay, finance and audit committees. Last year it was myself and Joellen. I think it's been myself and Joellen for a few years now. It's,
They invite everybody, so.
yeah, it's not time consuming at all.
Representatives?
It's not time consuming at all.
No, I mean,
Anybody-
the whole board is invited to the audit, so do we need to have designated
Well, we
representatives?
have to make sure at least two people show up, right? Because what if we're all busy that day or we forget? It's nice to have, that layer of accountability. Does anybody want to do it? No volunteers?
I'll do it again.
when is that?
It's usually like in March, April. Dave, when is that? Is it, I want to say April, March or April, when Angela comes in and meets with us?
They usually try to do that in March /
Yeah,
April.
March.
The audit is normally due March 31st, and then we'll have the pre-audit either the last week
Mhm.
or the first week of.
It's maybe like an hour long. They usually do it like at 4:00.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll do it, I will try to come up and suggest some times. I try to make it so that everybody can attend, and it's open to anyone.
Yeah.
All board members will be invited to that meeting. And it is-
Typically, the only ones that come are the people that are on the committee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyone's invited, and it is not considered a public meeting, even though we have
I
more
was
than,
gonna ask that.
yeah.
So Joelle's going to remain on the committee. Is there anyone else who wants to be on this committee?
If you need someone, because it is during the day, I can do that, but certainly Joellen, I mean, she's going to have more expertise on that, I'm sure, than I will, so
Okay,
it's not like, I'm just trying to help out if
sure,
needed.
I understand.
Yeah,
So we'll put Joellen and Ann, Dave, if that's okay.
that's fine, I've got them listed.
Okay, communications.
can this be combined? Can this be like communication / Board of Education web page? It seems to me like it's the same thing. Or are these two different
Yeah,
things?
I mean, yeah, I guess it kind of is.
They both land in the same office.
Yeah, I mean, really, yeah, that's
Just to
Sure.
condense them and
sure, absolutely.
What was that Corinne, I'm sorry.
Communications should be changed with the new one we're adding, which is the Board of Education webpage, because we've been talking about updating that since last January, but then we all got busy and it got sidetracked and put on the back burner. So that does make sense.
Yeah, I don't even remember any functionality to this Board of Education Communication Committee in 2020 when I was on the board.
No, but 2020 was a weird year.
Yeah, I don't think we have like a lot of meetings with Liz, right?
With
Simon?
COVID.
Liz and I touched
Right.
base briefly in the beginning of the year,
Uh-huh.
and we were going to get together to evaluate the plan that she had put together, which she thought needed to be re-examined. And COVID hit,
Yeah, sure.
and so that was the end of the conversation.
Are you okay with us combining this with the Board of Education page and communications in one committee?
I think it should be.
Yeah, I do too. Okay, so I know last year Ann and I volunteered for the webpage. I don't mind staying on it because I have all the research and I still have all my notes
have
from
the
last
research too,
year.
so that would-
Does anybody else want to be on this committee? If not, Ann and I are completely up for redoing the webpage. It's not going to be fancy, but it just needs to be, I'd like to add when our terms end and we will run everything, you know, tell you guys what we're going to do, but it just needs to be updated. We did a couple of basic things last year, just real simple. Okay. All right, communications, Board of Education webpage, Dave, is Dunaway and Zakor. So that takes us to the Business Advisory Council. Why does that say Russ Gilmore?
Because we had asked him to join it due to all of his input from MVCTC. It
Yeah.
was actually like a really
That's a-
awesome thing, but
That
it
was
just,
my, yeah, that was my idea, and then I feel like I forgot.
COVID,
Yeah, he's
yeah.
so great for that.
he's really great for that.
Okay, anybody want to be on Business Advisory Council this year?
I
think
would like to be on it.
That's to continue.
Mhm.
I think you should ask Russ if he'd like
Oh,
to
I
be on
will.
it.
Yeah, I will email him, he's great. Joellen, what about you? Do you want to stay on that, or do you want to?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Can you hear him?
I think
She
she
said
said
yes.
that.
She said, yeah.
Okay, great.
If
And I will-
if anybody's talking on this side, it shuts the speaker off.
Joellen, since you're on that committee, would you like to reach out to Russ to ask him if he wants to stay on it? If not, I will.
I don't mind.
Okay, that'd be great. Athletic Council. It only meets like quarterly.
I'll do it.
Okay. I'll do it with Simon. Athletic Council is Mrs. Dunaway and Mr. Patrick.
Business Advisory is Joellen.
What'd you just say?
Is that Joellen?
Yes.
Yes, it's same. Russ
And
and
athletic is,
Dunaway and Patrick.
okay.
Okay, and then we've got Miami Valley CTC, which is Russ. Tipp City Economic Development. Joellen, do you want to stay on that?
Not really.
Okay, that's fine.
If anybody
Anybody
else
else?
would like to do it, I'm okay with if nobody else wants to, but if somebody else would like to, that'd be great.
Understood.
What is it, Joellen?
You just keep up quarterly with what's going on with city and the development, but usually we get emails. Usually the president gets emails about things specific to the school district.
Joellen, who do those emails come from? Is it the Tipp City Council President?
I didn't go to any last year,
Okay,
so I don't even know that it got established.
okay, thank
I
you.
don't mind doing it. If somebody else wants to, that's okay too.
Well, I feel like if that's something you don't want to do and that's a place I can help out, you've got a full plate.
Okay, Corinne down for that. Tipp Monroe Community Services.
I think my name has been there for,
Oh, you've done it for like 2
I
or
know.
3 years. Get off of it.
yeah.
Okay,
They're great people, but.
yeah. Anybody for
They do
TMCS?
a lot of community
Oh,
service, community service.
we're absolutely
community service,
blessed to have them in all they do for our community. Any volunteers for TMCS? Okay, we'll circle back to that
yeah.
one.
You can just keep my name now, it's fine. No, there's no need to circle back.
Okay, 3. Corinne, number 3, third year. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe you can get like a plaque, like. Okay, Tipp Education Endowment. Joellen, I know that's one of your favorite committees.
Who was staying with Tipp Monroe Community Services?
Corinne, yeah. Joellen?
I'll do it unless somebody else wants to.
Well, I know you enjoy that, right? I mean, isn't that kind of one of your favorites?
I don't mind going to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it's a good thing. We want, our board members to be excited and, awesome liaisons to these committees.
I'm happy to do it.
Simon, do you want to do it? Or, no? Okay, Anne?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, yeah, good. All right, Joellen, it's you again. And then Tipp City Park Advisory Board, I didn't receive anything on that last year. Does anybody want to do it? I mean, it's not that, I'll continue, but if somebody wants to do it, just let me know.
Is it relevant?
I don't,
I mean, what's happened with them?
nothing that I think the person who had it the year before me, I think had like a 5-minute meeting one time in that year. I'm pretty sure I remember that correctly. So it's not a big, time commitment. They must eat meat, I don't know. I didn't receive anything from them last year. That's all I know, so.
So is it relevant?
I don't
Well,
know.
our football.
I don't know because I didn't get anything last year.
Is in City Park.
I didn't get anything last
When we
year.
were planning for Broadway, there was a lot of talk about working with the city to create a park. I think that the committee has value when we get to those items, when
Yeah,
those items come up.
Correct, depending on what's going on with the schools and the community. Yeah, last year we didn't have any type of
So it's very
Tipp Pride stuff, no
episodic.
levies. Yeah,
I'll do it.
sure.
It seems to go dovetail with the school facilities.
Yes.
So just to let you know,
Okay,
Simon, what
great.
happens is Kristen will send your name over to the Tipp City management people, and so they'll have your email, and then that's how you can they'll have your information. Okay, Tipp City Public Library. We don't know what's going on with the whole Miami County probate and, those 2 seats, so this could possibly be an interviewing type situation. We don't know what to expect of time commitment on this committee. It's new. So do we have any volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
Simon? Awesome. Anyone else?
I'll volunteer.
Should be on it, because if this is the same committee, I thought that does swearing in, so. Or is that separate than this committee?
Well,
They could be from this committee.
Because I think that would just be an easy part,
Yeah.
if you're the president,
that's,
and maybe it
the
should be
swearing in
that
part
the
does make
president
sense.
is always on the Tipp City Public Library. I don't know, but I just think that just makes sense, but.
Mrs. Heatherly, did I hear you
I'll
say
do
that
it.
you were interested?
If it's only one position, I don't need to be on it.
No, there's two.
there's 2 positions, so, yeah.
Well, also it's
Simon can do it.
Well, we need 2 people, because remember, Joellen, when we talked about the interviewing, we said we would have 2 board members. If they have seats available, that we would be able to interview with them. That was part of our discussion. I know we're going to discuss it again with them on the 14th. So I think if we just have the 2 board members now, we don't have to rehash this down the line if we find out we have to interview for library trustee positions. So just, Simon has volunteered, so we just need 1 more person. Corinne suggested I do it. If you want to do it, just let us know.
I'm okay with doing it, but if it needs to be the president, that's fine too.
Okay, so it's myself and Simon. Okey doke. So then, Dave, I guess we'll get this whole list from Kristen,
Yep, I've got it.
and then
written
she'll
down.
correct those dates for us. Okay, so that takes us to the treasurer's report, item A.
No, we actually have to vote on this list now.
Oh, we do vote on the committee
Yeah, we
assignments?
do vote on this.
Okay, great. All right, I'll make the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion and seconded by Dunaway and Dahl. Whenever you're ready for a roll.
Okay. Was that Dahl Dunaway?
Dunaway, Dahl.
Dunaway Dahl. Approval of the committee assignments I have, okay, Dunaway,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes,
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll get this finalized and everyone will receive a clean copy of this.
No problem. Treasurer's report.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion for approval of the resolution adopting the attached alternative tax budget for fiscal year 2022.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Dunaway Dowell. Is there any discussion?
I will just note that this, again, is an annual requirement. While putting this document together, it is an estimate. However, I did use the 5-year forecast when putting down the information for our general fund and our emergency levy fund. So those are tied very closely to that 5-year forecast for fiscal year 2022. The other funds are currently using historical estimates. This past fiscal year 2020 is not the best year to do estimates off of because of how different it was. So I tried looking back previously to years 19, 18, and 17. So the budget currently reflects older years rather than last year. I'm hoping that we come through the COVID issue or the COVID situation sooner in 2021 rather than later, so that we can return to a more normal operations in fiscal year 2022. However, there'll be time to adjust all of these numbers as we get closer to actual fiscal year 2022. And we'll approve an actual draft budget in June. So it's not that far off, actually. Be here before we know it. Are there any questions that I might be able to answer for the board members?
I have a question.
Sure, Ann.
Obviously, this is a very formalized document in relation to finances,
Okay.
more than what we have had to sign anything in terms of budgetary approvals, et cetera. Why is it so formalized? What's the critical mass behind this document that needs this type of formality?
This is what the auditor's office, the Miami County Auditor's Office, has asked us to complete. If you look at the breakdown, they're more concerned with the estimated tax revenue and the estimated homestead and rollback receipts. That's what they want to know. These are actually broken down they're not summarized lower. I mean, they only ask for total expenditures. They don't ask us to break down expenditures between personnel services and contract services. This is just what they want us to put together. It's a summarized budgetary statement. Normally, when we approve appropriations for the fiscal year anyway, the list that I give you is broken down by taxes and then other revenue. And then we have our estimated appropriations. So it actually kind of is like our appropriation approvals that we do each month when you look at that report. But this is what they have set up on how they want us to report this to them. This is their Excel document. This is their format. I am just putting in our numbers to follow what they have asked for.
And it's an annual approval process?
This is an annual approval, correct. Okay. Sorry, too long, didn't read, right?
Any other questions?
Okay.
Ready for a vote, Dave?
Dunaway,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, I'd like to get approval of a resolution to advance taxes from the treasurer of Miami County to the Tipp City Board of Education.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and seconded, Dunaway and Dowell. Are there any questions?
Again, this is an annual resolution that I asked for so that I have the ability to contact the auditor's office in January and July to ask for an advance of any property taxes that they have received before the deadlines that they have for February's tax revenues and August tax revenues. So it just allows us to get the money in advance and have it a month earlier. The sooner we have it, the sooner I can put it into a bank. And, you know, previously we'd earned good interest on it, and this year not so much right now. But if I don't have this resolution, then I have to wait until the tax collection process is fully completed.
Thank you for that.
Ready for the vote, Dave?
Dunaway,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes,
Motion carries. Item C.
Lastly, I just wanted to comment, we've had in our last few board meetings, we've discussed the contents of the minutes. And I would like to recommend to the board, you know, based on our current policy, 0168 for the minutes, it states that recording shall be made of each meeting of the board as an administrative aid and shall be preserved as public documents of the board. The recording shall also be referred to in written minutes. I would like to go with Mr. Patrick's suggestion of using our recordings, whether this be video recording or audio recording, that these be our official minutes, and that we then just have a minute summary that references what was discussed, not as in no ways to be as detailed as the actual recordings would be. My suggestion for me is to add to our written minutes timestamps next to each section, so that if someone were to refer to that recording, they may easily fast forward through a video or an audio recording to that section of the recording, rather than have to find their way or listen to a 1, 2, 3, 4 hour meeting. I already do this in board docs anyway.
Right.
And just to note that on the written minute summary, nothing additional on my back to have to do that. And then for the concern that I have had with the longevity of being able to review those documents, I would just
40 years from now, right?
Yeah, my plan is to, you know, I can still view AVI files that I put onto a CD when I was back in college. And so I will just put these on a thumb drive and a DVD. We'll have 2 versions, maybe even 3. I can save it on something else. And then I'll also have a device that we can use to play those items. And, you know,
Because we have lots of old Chromebooks that go out of cycle and we get the new
Correct.
ones. We just put a Chromebook in there with it, and that,
anything that we can play, you know, in 20 years from now, we look at it and go, hey, it's time to update those, and we just convert it to the new one.
right?
I don't think it would be very
Like 8
hard.
tracks. People convert their 8 tracks, and back in the day, or the remember camcorders?
Yeah.
No one has those anymore.
The number of times that I've had to go back to minutes previously, I've had no one really request anything, any copies of those. It's just been me looking back. And I can count on my hand the number of times I've had to do that. So.
Well, don't jinx yourself.
No, I think doing it with an audio recording or a video recording would be easier than trying to read through the minutes.
Great. Well, thank you so much for putting the time and effort into that and coming up with a viable solution.
Well,
And I loved your idea of throwing a Chromebook in there, or, you know, some type of device. and-
something that can play it.
Yes,
We'll get
correct. That's wonderful. Hey, don't forget the charger.
That's right.
The chargers are like a big deal, right? You have all these devices in your house, you never have the right charger, so definitely put a charging port in there.
So that's just what I plan to do moving forward, starting with this upcoming regular meetings minutes
Great.
from that last December, today, our meeting on the 14th and our meeting on the 11th. I believe that's what's in the list, but
I think that we need to, I could be wrong, but I think we need to amend our policy, because our policy is more of a administrative aid versus acting as our minutes. And I think for these to be satisfying the public records requirement is that we have to have a policy that makes this our official minutes.
that makes the video or the recording, because what I will do is I will reach out to Helen. I will refer to this section of our meeting, and we'll just check with her to make sure what we might need to do to make that official.
And because I could be wrong, but the way I'm reading this, it's not necessarily clear that our current policy provides that the recording can act as our minutes. And I think that's a legal requirement.
well, And a spinoff on that, you know, there's been no board majority vote taken to change that policy, nor has there been any vote taken to affirm this idea of switching to video as the minutes.
This was actually, this was suggested to me by Mrs. Carroll, based on what she found in our policy. So she felt that we
Oh,
could
great.
do that,
That's
but
good.
I can check with her, and if we do need to.
I mean, I think it warrants a board discussion, that's all I'm saying, to make this type of switch. Because a couple things, it says Mr. Stevens will maintain a device that can play the recordings. What does that mean? If somebody wants to come in out of the street, the public, and they want to see those minutes, they don't have it, you know, they don't have the technology, whatever, from their home. Does that mean you can give them that device to sit here and look at that?
They can, well, normally for public records, if somebody wanted to come in, they could always come in, schedule a time and view those records here in our office. They don't have to have a copy or something emailed to them. So we are to provide a place for them to be able to review them.
Okay. And then,
And that's not part of our policy. That's just my suggestion below on what we would be doing to facilitate the first two sentences under 0168. If this, where it says Mr. Stevens will maintain, that's not the policy at all.
That's just his personal notes.
Yeah, it's personal.
because I mean, I'm all for helping to maximize efficiency.
Mhm.
But my concern is, and will remain, anybody who's not that's in our district, particularly that does not have the technology, and there's many people here still like that, and I respect them, even though, you know, they're not mainstream with technology. They deserve as much respect, in my opinion, as any other taxpayer in the community. And so you can go down to the library and print off the minutes. You go, you know, you can, and take those home and read them. If they're not available in print and they're only on AV, then how does one do that?
They can come and schedule a time and come and listen to them, or I can put it, I mean,
If they're
No,
going
they-
down to the library and you get on our board docs, I mean, this is what I thought you were talking about, and so you have to correct me. So if you go to our meetings on board docs, you know, if they're down at the library, they hop on a computer and they go to November 16th, 2020. And then you view the agenda, embedded in that agenda, you can then view the minutes. So you can go to the conversation, you can watch it.
Right.
You can then print the minutes that we voted on as well, once you're in the Google Docs. And I think that's under the meetings, right? They can print the minutes if they wanted to view it and then print the minutes. Both of those options would be available.
But those minutes will no longer be detailed and available if we embrace this new procedure here.
Well, you're still gonna do minutes, right? They're just not gonna be as detailed like that huge, you know how
That's
the
what we're
pendulum
trying, that's what we're trying to
Trying
get
to
away from.
avoid, I understand that, but this is just my voice. I would like to see a blend so that print is still available, and to print and read.
Yeah.
And not, you know, dependent on technology in order to process it.
We were trying to get away from Dave spending 8 hours
I understand.
once a month on these super detailed.
I understand if you can go maybe to a skeletal, I mean, there's just,
Going away from going from board member to board member to board member and trying to summarize what was said in their statements, that's what I'm trying to get away from.
I understand.
I mean,
It's very time consuming.
The script that you were trying to write
Right.
was too much.
Right.
I mean, my hope is that somebody can go to board docs and just click on, say, the minutes discussion and watch that.
Right.
But I'm sure it's also time consuming for city council, and I think they do a pretty good job, don't they, on their written minutes?
I haven't read their minutes. I can speak again with the clerk of courts
Mhm.
and just try to,
Don't they have a court reporter? I feel like they have a court.
no,
Okay.
she does that.
I don't know why I thought that. Okay.
All I'm saying in a nutshell, and then I'll move on.
Mhm.
You know, we work for the taxpayers, and I understand we make this assumption that everybody's on the grid. Many are, most are, but there's still a lot that are not. And I just don't want to be dismissive of those people because they pay their taxes as much as anybody. And I want to keep those opportunities as open and encompassing as possible.
Well, Dave, you said in all the years you've been here, this really hasn't been an issue, correct?
Well, I
Knock
don't
on
know.
wood, but
Those have been posted online, and I have not had anyone contact me to ask further questions
right,
of the minutes.
right.
And that is because a lot of people go to people that they know do have the technology and say, hey, can you print those for me? Swing over and pick them up. So just
But
because they're
that-
not coming in here,
But that does encompass all the different ways they've been done over the past years as myself as the treasurer and the former 2 treasurers. So the minutes have varied differently. But again, I understand exactly what you're saying, Mr. DeBoer.
So just a blend.
I'll try to find a happy medium,
Yeah.
whatever the word is.
It doesn't, that's not gonna work, because first we yelled at you because they were not detailed enough, then we yelled at you because you're detailed. Now, we have to get the glass slipper to fit just right.
I would think, I would hope that I can take the minutes down
Mhm.
and get a broad idea of what was discussed as I'm typing during our meetings,
Mhm.
which have served well in the past. It's been trying to go back and collect even more information that has been the problem.
Mhm.
Just cleaning up what I've typed tonight, I think would be fine.
Mhm.
And so I think that we'll have a good in between there.
Okay.
The only time that we don't have that
So-
is when I'm talking directly, and then I go and listen to those sections anyway, just to make sure that I get what I spoke about.
Right,
because
'cause
I'm
it's hard
certainly
to-
not talking and typing at the same time.
Right,
So I think that the notes that I take during our meeting and that will make it into the minutes I think they'll be sufficient,
okay.
rather than me having to go home and transcribe what I can.
so let's just try it,
Yep.
see how it goes. I mean, because so far we've gone from too much to too little to too much to too little, so we'll just keep tweaking
Yep.
it.
And
We'll
again,
move forward the best we can.
any
just-
board member that wants to make a suggestion on adding something to those,
Right,
we can.
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So I have a dual system. The video will be the verbatim, and then the written will be a scaled down,
And I will,
quick reference version.
at one point, I did note on our minutes, that there was a copy of the video could be viewed on board docs. And the clerk of courts actually suggested, she said, you need to get that out of there because board docs may not be around forever. And so, but if I do say a copy of the recording or an audio recording is available from the board office, then it lets people know that they can get that if they want to go further.
Okay, great suggestion. Simon, did you have a comment? You were trying to chime in. You got cut off.
Just a couple of things, is that I still think we need to, I think everything that you've just said, Mr. Stevens, makes sense to me. I think that having a recording as the minutes would be the best bet, and then the summaries of that would be great, especially if you've got the timestamp. For this particular meeting, I still think we have to approve, if I'm not correct, we were okay, but if I am correct, and our current policy doesn't provide for allowing the recording to serve as our minutes, we still need to approve minutes the old way we did it at this meeting from a timing perspective, and we don't have any. And so we may want, and I don't know, because I think the timing issue is something I came up on when I was looking at all this. And so I'm not sure if we want to, maybe then our work session, do we have a work session later this month?
The 11th.
The 11th?
Then maybe we have
And the board
to
meeting.
approve our minutes on that. I don't know if we can. It's been a while since we did all this, but we need to approve, I think, our minutes from December this month. And we need to, if we're going to change our policy, if it's required to be changed, we need to have a first and second read. And so we'll have to keep doing minutes as we have in the past until that's changed, if it's changed.
Well, Dave, see what Helen has to say, and then just email the entire board. And then since it seems like Simon and Ann, you've had the most questions about this, so after you get Helen's email, if you do have specific questions, if you could circle back to Dave, you know what I mean, so we can kind of,
Simon and I are on the policy committee too.
oh, well, great. So,
there
you
you
know
go.
what I'm saying? Okay, that works out great.
Then I would move then that the board authorize myself, Mr. Stevens, and Ms. Secor to follow up with Ms. Carroll on this issue. So we have the authority, board members have the authority to engage the attorney on that issue.
Yeah, I would like us all to get the email just so we kind of just have it for posterity's sake, but yeah, if you and Ann could work on that, that'd be wonderful. I appreciate that. So Dave, where are we with minutes? We're done discussing. Do we have an original motion and vote on this? I feel like we did.
No, this was just me notifying.
Great.
But I have moved
Oh, that's right.
that
Okay, I'll
the
second.
board authorize and
Simon
myself and
and-
Mr. Stevens to pursue this and then to report back, including copying.
I don't think that you need board authorization to do that.
I do. I think for us to talk to the attorney and engage the attorney to do something, Mr. Stevens doesn't, but I believe that Ms. Secor and I do.
Well, actually you don't, because it was the same thing that Corinne and I did with the library thing, so.
And I
We built consensus.
disagree with that, so,
Okay.
so I put a motion out to the floor, because I will not contact the attorney.
I'll second it.
Board's
You
authority.
second it, Teresa?
Go ahead. So motion by Patrick, seconded by Heatherly. For Ann and Simon and Dave to work with Ellen, already talking to Mask, with the minutes. Dave, we're ready for a vote if you are. Patrick and Heatherly.
Gotta do some things.
He's doing that.
Yes.
If you want to check other policies, not right this minute, but when you have time, if you want to expedite things, if there's not a huge change to a policy, there is a way to finish it up in one read.
Oh, great.
So you can check the policies and see what the restrictions are
Good
around
deal.
one read versus two reads.
Good to know.
So I will get the actual official motion from the recording
Okay.
later, but I have motion to authorize Mr. Stevens, Mr. Patry, and Mrs. Secor to contact the attorney. And I missed the rest.
Related to this
Related-
policy.
Yeah, it's policy 0168 regarding the minutes.
To report back.
And then just report back to the full board.
We can even clean it up in the work session if you guys have any information about that.
Yeah,
Okay, and that was Mr. Patry
And Mrs.
Heatherly.
Heatherly, it was
Okay,
ready for a vote?
yep, Patry,
yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dahl,
I don't think you need my approval for this. I
Then say
think this muddies the waters, like,
well,
I'm seriously, I'm contemplating, I think this sets a dangerous precedent that now.
Yep. Well, so vote, because we have a motion and a second.
No, I don't think, no.
Okay, Dell's a no.
as a, Dunaway,
No.
Secor.
No.
Motion fails.
And which means I will not be contacting Ms. Carroll related to this, as I feel that we need a board authority to be doing that. And the board acts by motions that are seconded and voted in the end of an affirmative vote as the board.
Okay. Thank you, Simon.
So I'd like to just go on
Yes,
the
go ahead,
record
Ann.
as well. So is there consensus that one or both people on the policy committee should be reaching out to
Absolutely.
Ellen about that, or?
Absolutely.
Yes.
With my many conversations to Ohio School Board Association attorneys last year, that's absolutely procedurally how it should be handled. So
And Joellen, I didn't hear her.
you have my consent and blessing
Okay.
to take care of the board business as the board needs regarding the minutes and the policy.
Boards of education don't act by consensus. They act by motions that are seconded and voted on. And so our policy expressly prohibits board members to act alone unless authorized by the board. So I'm just gonna bring that up again, and you guys, what you're gonna do.
I think that since we do have Mr. Stevens, who does have expressed ability to contact a school lawyer when it relates to school
Right.
business, and he's gonna be the one heading this up, and you guys are just part of a policy committee together that's gonna be meeting and talking with him. There's no
Seems
problem.
Yeah, it seems
Well,
procedurally accurate.
and an analogy of that is last year when we were doing, I can remember Title IX, Miss Carol was part of the video, I was here. And I did ask her a few questions here and there as we went through that very lengthy policy. But that was not because it was, initiated by me. It was a policy with administration and I was part of that committee. So yes, and I did have a dialogue.
I think that's a very different example. I guess I'm not, we've talked about this enough, so it's just.
Okay.
I will contact Mrs. Carroll
Okay,
and see what needs to be done.
sure. New business? Mark, is that you or?
Did we do the consent agenda?
That's what we're doing right
That's
now.
what-
It's not listed, but
Okay, I get to say. Motion to accept the 4 items in the consent agenda as listed.
I'll move.
I'll second. Moved and seconded by Dahl and Dunaway.
I believe, not that there's supposed to be any discussion.
There's
but
no
I believe-
discussion.
But I believe they're the same 4 things that were in last year's agenda.
except for the public records training, we approved that in February last year.
Okay.
This year, we just put it into the January organizational meeting. And I did attend that meeting in December. So we're good for
Ready for
all of our elected officials. We're good for public records training.
Ready for the vote, Dave?
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes?
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick,
Yes.
Secor.
Yes.
Motion carries. Consent agenda carries. New business. Do you want me to do it, Mr. Spaulding? I'll do it.
I'm sorry,
New business.
the consent agenda was in new business.
One second.
Okay. Look it up there.
Approval to retain the following law firms.
Yes, a motion to approve the retaining of the following law firms as listed below.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion seconded by Dunaway and Dahl. Is there any discussion?
Move to amend it to state that approval for Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Stevens to retain the following law firms on as needed basis, and then to report back to the board on matters of importance.
Say it one more time.
Move to approve Mr. Stevens and Mr. Stefanik to retain the following law firms on an as needed basis, the following law firms being Bricker and Eckler and Russell and Andrus, and to report back to the board on matters of importance.
So would that then change them from being board attorneys to being superintendent and treasurer attorneys?
No. There are board officers contacting board attorneys.
Wait, so there are board officers contacting board.
They're not the officers, the superintendent and the treasurer we're authorizing them to retain these individuals on as needed basis. These 2 law firms.
So are you saying that the board president and the board vice president and the 3 board members have no authorization to call either law firm?
That has been my position since day one.
Okay, that's fine.
My concern is that that might muddy the waters about who their lawyers represent. They represent the school board. Yeah.
I'm not sure why our superintendent or treasurer would be calling our board attorneys on issues that aren't related to school board business.
Well, they always do. So I'm not sure why we need to
Yeah,
put
they
that in
always
here.
do.
That's why we do this every year.
Yeah, but I'm not sure why putting,
In the past, go ahead, Karen.
I'm not sure why inserting the approval for the superintendent and the treasurer to retain the following law firms is needed. And my concern is that then changes the lens of who is retaining the law firms. You would, the only other thing to say would be the superintendent and the treasurer on the behalf of the school board, but then you're right back to where you started.
Right. Anyways, well, there's a motion by Simon. Does he have a second for that amendment?
I'm sorry, but what was the second part to report back to the Board of?
Approval to retain the following law firms.
No, but
Read it
He
to
was
us, David.
amending the motion
Correct.
to
But he had
include
a
a
motion, so
statement.
I was asking for him to get a second because the conversation started. So Simon put the motion out there. Does Simon have a second?
I'll second so we can discuss it.
Okay, so Joellen has the second, motion and seconded, and we have been discussing it. So do you want to read the original amendment, Dave, just so we all have it? Because we've already discussed it, so we just need to vote. So will you read it?
The original amendment?
Well, the one that Simon just made.
Okay, it's approval to retain the following law firms on an as-needed basis to include Mr. Stefanik. I'm sorry, Simon.
No, it's all right. It's moving to authorize Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Stevens to retain the following law firms on an as-needed basis.
I'm sorry, I'm already.
That's a-
Are you including the original approval to retain the following law firms?
Yeah. That's fine. You moving, my motion is to amend the original motion to authorize Mr. Stevens and Mr. Stefanik to retain the following law firms on an as-needed basis, which are Bricker and Eckler and Retzel and Anders. And to report to the board on matters of import.
And to report to the board on matters of importance.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
To amend the original amendment or amend the original motion to authorize Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Stevens to contact the board attorneys or to retain the following law firms. I'm just copying and pasting and missing things.
Yeah, get the contact out of there.
Mr. Stevens.
Yeah, to retain, get the attorneys out of there. All right, then.
Okay.
Mr. Stefanik is trying to retain the following firms on an as-needed basis, and then to report to the board. Items of importance.
Before we vote, I do have one more question, comment, whatever.
Okay.
So is there any further discussion on this before we vote?
Well, let's have some discussion about it.
What she
Is
said.
more time?
Let's have some discussion about
Well, we
it.
were, but I never got a second, so I went back and officially got the second, which was you. So
Right.
now we're going to continue discussing.
So,
Okay.
This is
does the amended motion, this isn't about the attorneys that were
No, this
retained?
is about no board member being able to contact the attorney unless we have a majority vote to contact the attorney. Am I correct, Simon?
No, this is, I think our policy already prohibits any board attorney or any board member from contacting the attorney individually without a motion and approval of the board as a body, an elected body. So right now, though, however, we have to be able to provide our administrative superintendent and the treasurer the ability to do that on an as-needed basis when there's no time to get board approval to do these types of things and then to report back on things that they have regular need for. That's in our policies, that they are allowed to do that on the policies. So right now what I'm doing here is I'm just amending our motion here to make it clear to everybody that this motion here to approve these two law firms to be called on an as-needed basis by Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Stevens is not a blanket approval to the rest of the board.
Well, that's not what this
Yeah.
item agenda is for.
Well, that's why I'm moving it to amend it.
Well, I don't think that you should move to amend items to adjust and reflect your opinion of our policies.
That's Robert's Rules of Orders. I can certainly do that. And if somebody seconds it and it gets defeated, it gets defeated.
Well, I said think. What I meant to say is, I don't think that's good boardsmanship, is trying to put in a policy into an agenda item without discussing a policy.
I'm not putting a policy. I think our policy is already reflected. I don't think it's
That's your
good board.
opinion of the
The
policy.
policy is not already reflected.
I will say that we did discuss this at multiple meetings. I don't know when, I'll just say like August, September. I reached out, as your suggestion, I reached out to several attorneys at Ohio School Board Association to make sure that myself and Corinne did nothing wrong. The answer was, of course, you know, in some districts, it's the board president and the board vice president that can call legal counsel. Some school boards have only the president. And I think I told you in my prior years, it's gone back and forth. Some years we could all contact. Sometimes it was only the president that could contact legal counsel. I became an officer and Corinne became an officer last year. We said everybody should have an equal opportunity. I mean, that's just, anyway, so.
USDA doesn't provide legal advice. They can provide you a 40,000-foot view of what they think, and what they have not reviewed our policies. They're not providing us a legal opinion.
Well,
And so that, I'm not sure who you talked to or what was discussed, but I disagree. And so I think we've discussed this at length. There's no need to rehash this. I've made a motion, it's been seconded, it's up for a vote.
Well, I'd like to say something. I believe when we talked about the procedure that Simon drafted and presented to us at the November meeting or work session, can't remember which one it was. I couldn't tell if there were concerns about the content or the fact that we received it and didn't have time to review it. So I'd like to recommend that we put that back onto an agenda for our upcoming work session. So we can, all it was a procedure outlining the protocols that would be used. And that's what I think Simon was trying to suggest as far as the last discussion about contacting Helen about the procedure or about the policy amendment for the minutes. So it's just a procedure. I don't understand why there's any reason why that sort of protocol or procedure wouldn't be just a good practice of our board.
I would just like to keep this agenda item about the agenda item, which is which of the 2021 lawyers we're going to use.
Okay, so let's go back to the motion in second. So Dave, call for roll for Simon. Right now we're voting on Simon's amendment. So it was
Correct.
Patry and Heatherly.
Yes.
Will you call roll?
Patrick,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Dahl,
No.
Dunaway,
No.
Zakor.
no,
Okay, motion fails. So back to the original new business item, which was the motion to approval to retain the following law firms on an as-needed basis: Bricker and Eckler, Retzel and Andrus. Can I get a motion in a second?
motion,
Second.
Motion and second, and Zakor and Dahl. Dave, will you call roll?
There's discussion first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion.
I believe that our policies are very clear, our bylaws are very clear that no board member has the authority to contact our attorneys. And so while I will vote yes on this, I want to make sure that it's very clear that the only thing I'm voting yes on is that the law firms that can be used by our school board without further action of this board are these two firms. I still don't believe that any individual board member has the authority legally to retain the legal services of these law firms, whether it's a question or any investigative aspect when we're incurring any legal fees. And so I'm just going to say that. I know you guys disagree with me, but I want to make it clear that my voting yes on this does not in any way, shape, or form rescind any previous expression of concern that I have with what's occurred in the past.
So
And I will
concern legal fees.
I think I'm not going to try to summarize a very extensive, multiple hour-long discussion over several meetings into one sentence.
Okay.
well. I'd like to get to a point of being very cautious about what we're projecting to the public so that we really make a focus to have accurate conversations. And when we're not certain of that accuracy, we preface that. Because you made a statement, Simon, about OSBA doesn't do this. I guess they don't give legal advice, but you were apprised because I forwarded that email from the OSBA board attorney on our policy 0174. You just stated that according to our policy 0174, it's pretty clear that the board members can't be contacting the attorney, and nothing could be further from the truth. Because it was for that reason that I contacted OSBA, and I have the email in front of me, October 14th, from Mr. Lusher, staff attorney. There is not a revised code that references who may contact legal counsel for the board or district. In other words, there's no law that says it's this way or that way. Your policy, Tipp policy 174, states the board will establish procedures necessary to effect an efficient working relationship between the council and the board and or staff members. The decision is left to the board as a whole on how and whom may reach out to board counsel. It's pretty clear to me that there's a discretionary process here. And so to make these very definitive limiting statements that there is, the law doesn't allow it, our policy doesn't allow it, I just want to put that conversation into the mix for the public's benefit.
For the public's benefit, I would say this, is that first, the email you're referencing indicates that there is no revised code expressly prohibiting a school board member from individually calling the school attorney. That's correct. There is no Ohio revised code, state statute on that point. There is a lot of case law and other statutes that refer to public records and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate as far as delegating board powers. Regardless of that fact, our board policy 122.1 on member powers expressly provides that board members as individuals do not separately possess the powers that reside in the Board of Education. Policy 174 that you just quoted talks about that the school board will decide on how that occurs. We do not act by consensus or unilateral discussions or individual discussion or decisions. We act through motions that are seconded and with an affirmative vote of this board. We have never changed our policy related to how we contact attorneys beyond what's in this piece of paper. None of these policies authorize any individual board member to contact the school attorneys. Further, I do not think it'd be appropriate to have a blanket policy that delegates that board power upon any individual board member. And I feel that that would probably be a violation of the Public Records Act. So we've had that discussion over several hours, over several meetings. You all do not agree with me, and that's fine. But I'm going to note my concerns again and make sure that my yes vote on this retention is not misconstrued as somehow permitting or authorizing any individual board member from contacting the school attorneys. And so if you're going to be doing that, because what you're indicating that the purpose of this vote, because I just tried to amend it. I tried to amend it to limit it to Mr. Stefanik and Mr. Stevens. And you're indicating, well, that's not what that's doing. It's just naming the law firms that we can retain. Fair enough. If that's the only thing they're doing, I'll go ahead and vote yes. Who's allowed to contact those is then provided for by our policies, none of which provide any individual board member the authority. And so with that said, I'm good to go.
Well, I move that we vote.
I just really do have one final comment. I appreciate you, recapping and putting that out there, Simon, but I'd appreciate greater if you practice what you preach and deciding unilaterally to reach out to our board attorney and to rack up significant amounts of funds that had nothing to do with advancing this district, teachers, students, parents, or administrators. So I am not going to dummy down and act like we don't know what's going on here. And I think when you have your lectures and there's double standards, then I'm not gonna be quiet.
So again, policy 0174 says that the board will establish procedures. And so Simon drafted some procedures. I thought they looked pretty good. There was some concern because there wasn't any advanced review of those procedures. Is that something that we should revisit and create at a future work session?
Well, we did address that as a board. So when you talk about no individual
Right.
acts, we discussed that as a board
Correct.
and we squashed that as a board.
The consensus was, oh, go ahead, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And so, you know, I'm again, I feel like we're entangling two different issues here. This is a motion. It started out initially on the agenda to approve 2 law terms. And now we've segued into discussing the policy, and part of that discussion, I believe, in my opinion, has been based on perpetuating false information to the public. So I would like to disaggregate those two and get back to voting whether we're going to hire those 2 firms or retain those 2 firms, or not.
Yeah, so back to the original motion, which was the approval to retain the following firms on an as-needed basis: Bricker and Eckler and Russell and Andrus. And Dave, who was the first and second?
Zakor and Dahl.
Okay, ready for the vote?
Well, one thing is just that I disagree with, I won't hold this up any longer, but I disagree with your characterizations and your statement, Ms. Zakor. I'm good to go with the vote.
Okay, ready for the vote?
Zakor,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes,
Heatherly,
Yes.
Patrick.
Yes.
motion carries. Miscellaneous upcoming meetings. The next regular Board of Education meeting will take place on, oh, I lost that date. Hang on, let me
It'll
get
be January 12th.
Okay,
The regular meeting.
Oh, you said regular meeting. I'm sorry.
yeah. Okay. Well, just start with the, this should say work session.
Okay, work session is on January
Yeah.
12th,
Yeah, thank you.
5 p.m.
So I would just read
Thank you.
these next 3.
Yep, okay. The board will be having a work session on January 12th, starting at 5 o'clock. January 14th, we have a library meeting at the Tipp City Public Library. Time yet to be decided.
We're not all going to that, right?
Well, at the time, we had 3 members that wanted to, so we had to list it as
Oh,
a
okay.
meeting, just so that it was,
Okay.
you know.
That's fine.
Yeah. And then January 25th, we have our regular Board of Education meeting here at the Board of Education office, and that will start at 6 o'clock. Okay, so we are going to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G1 to consider the employment of a public employee. We do not anticipate any action. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Executive session.
Oh, sorry. A motion to adjourn to executive session.
Okay. Mr.
Motion
Patrick.
by second, Simon, motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second, Patry and Dahl.
Okay. Patrick,
Yes.
Dahl,
Yes.
Dunaway,
Yes.
Heatherly,
Yes.
Zakor.
Yes.
Okay. Joelle, is it okay is it okay to take a 5-minute break?
How will I be joining? Will I get
On
a
your end?
invitation?
I would please use the Google Meet link that was in Mrs. Williams' email.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure we get you hooked in.
All right. Thank you.
We only need 3.
Stop share. All right, we are back.
Okay, so we are back in regular session. It is 8:15, and I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Motion and second, Zakor and Patry. Ready for roll, Dave?
Zakor,
Yes.
Patry,
Yes.
Heatherly, and
Yes.
Dunaway.
Yes.
Mrs. Dahl is not present at the vote. Motion
Yep.
carries.
Motion carries. Good evening.
We adjourned at 8:16.